Dairy products, the delicious scourge of the American bowel. Milk, butter, ice cream, we can't turn left as Americans without stumbling across some kind of dairy product. But what if I were to tell you that there was one particular dairy product that had a darker history in the United States than almost any other given food, and in this way, the cheese stands alone. Now, you may be shocked to hear this. After all, cheese is as essential to the American experience as apple pie or its subsequent obesity. But someone has to say it. So join in with me as we trace through the dark history of cheese in the US. The year is 1946, and President Harry S. Truman is the guy. World War II had just ended, culminating in the US singing the praises of Harry Truman for murdering 200,000 people. For those of you who don't know, World War II brought us out of a silly little phase in our history called the Great Depression, which got its name because everyone was poor and therefore sad. Coming out of World War II, dealing with the aftermath of the Great Depression was one of the higher issues on the US docket. Because of this, Truman signed into law the Employment Act of 1946. It created the Economic Council of Advisors, or the CEA, to advise the president on economic policy. Specifically, the act emphasized the importance of maintaining and enforcing full employment, which led to policymakers doing more expansionary work in the economic field. This expansionary policy stance in turn contributed to the inflationary pressures in the mid-1960s. Now, you may be saying to yourself, Trace, what does any of this have to do with cheese? I'm getting to that, okay? Patience, buddy. Remember we talked about that in the car? Fast forward to 1977. Star Wars had just come out, Elvis Presley had just died, and as you all know, the first Chuck E. Cheese opened up in San Jose. The president at the time was Jimmy Carter. You know, the peanut president? No. He's the cheese president. You were lied to. Congratulations. You thought he was after kids with peanut allergies? No. It was the lactose intolerant ones all along. Now, the inflation rate in 1977 was 6.5%, which was pretty terrible, but inflation on dairy products was 30%. The American public was like, cheese, in this economy? So with what I can only assume were good intentions, Jimmy Carter set out to subsidize the dairy industry, pouring $2 billion worth of subsidies into it, which in today's money would have been like $9 billion. He did so by buying the surplus dairy that was made by these struggling dairy farmers. Now, dairy farmers saw this, and they did what any sharp dairy farmer would do. They made a lot of dairy products. Hey, we're here to buy your surplus cheese products. Oh, all right then. Well, here's my surplus. Oh, okay. That's an entire mountain of cheese. Yep. Call them the pyramids of cheese. Wow, that's not even clever. Well, it's what the people wanted, so. The people? So like people actually wanted this? Like you sell this much quarterly? Weekly, actually, yeah. Weekly. Yeah, it's just this darn inflation, you know? Oh. Okay, yeah, we're buying that much cheese off of you, I guess. Wait, well, that's not all of it. We also have the Leaning Tower of Cheese over there. Okay, that's just from the Goofy movie. Outside of that bit, this is actually a little more comfortable, so I'm going to stay in this get up. Guess I'm a dairy farmer at heart. But by like the 1980s, the government had bought like 500 million pounds of dairy product. And because most dairy products have the longevity of a Netflix original, most of it had to be converted into cheese. That's right, we had 500 million pounds of cheese. Around this time came the then Secretary of Agriculture, a certain John Block, who walked into the White House with a block of cheese in his hand and said, "Isn't this great?" No, he was more like, "We have like 100 million of these, and I'd like us to not have that. So could we please just like get rid of it?" And Ronnie Reagan was like, "Sure, I don't want it." Friends, that is where government cheese came from, and it's one of the main reasons that dairy is pushed so hard by the government. In fact, in the 90s, the Clintons started Dairy Management Incorporated, which was basically like dairy propaganda. To quote its Wikipedia page, Dairy Management Incorporated is an American trade association funded primarily by the U.S. Dairy Promotion Program, funded itself by government-mandated checkoff fees on dairy products and federal tax dollars, and is dedicated to promoting the sale of American-made dairy products. Remember the whole Got Milk thing? You know, the thing that was weird? They did that. That was Dairy Management Incorporated. And to give you an idea of how deep this goes, they bailed out Domino's to keep Americans eating cheese. I don't even have a comment on that one. But it didn't stop there. You see, 500 million pounds of cheese doesn't just disappear, especially if you keep buying more. Our economy was stabilized for a time. Inflation was down, dairy sales were up, dairy farmers everywhere were saying cheese. That was, of course, until 2019, which on many accounts was the end of a lot of good things. You see, dairy products aren't as popular as they used to be. The USDA tells me that per capita dairy consumption was about 275 pounds as of 1975. Fast forward to the late 2010s and that consumption is about 149. That is a 126 pound reduction, which is nearly 46% less. This was for a plethora of reasons. Yeah, trade disputes had a hand in it, but also the populace had just kind of come to the realization that humans weren't really made to digest lactose into adulthood. The Department of Health and Human Services conducted a study showing that it's really not that healthy to regularly consume dairy, and that 36% of all adults are full-on lactose intolerant. This led to a lot of milk alternatives, or people just cutting any form of milk out of their diet altogether. In addition to all of that, the number of cows cultivated for the dairy industry are the leading source of greenhouse gas emissions worldwide. Each year, a cow belches out about 220 pounds of methane into the atmosphere. There are 1.5 billion cows on the earth, so you do the math. Now, you'd think that would mean we'd produce less dairy, but you'd be stupid and wrong. Since 2010 alone, dairy production has gone up by 13%. In 2016 alone, 43 million gallons of milk were dumped into fields. But I thought that the government bought the surplus, so why is it being dumped into fields? Oh, they do buy the surplus. That is the milk that slipped, or rather dripped through the cracks. The dairy industry isn't crying over any spilled milk because in that year alone, the government provided $43 billion. In 2018, 42% of the dairy industry's income came from government subsidies. Because of this decrease in demand and increase in production, government intake of dairy products have skyrocketed. We have more cheese than ever before. You want to guess how much cheese we have stockpiled? Wrong. 1.4 billion pounds of cheese. And you want to know where we keep it? In caves in Missouri. It's just ridiculous. It's absurd. If you live in Springfield, Missouri, you may be living above a subterranean cheese bonanza. So my question today is, what are we going to do with all of this cheese? How are we going to deal with this massive oversupply of cheese? Who's eating all of this? That would be my big fat. U.S. Dairy Promotion Program, USDA. I know that I just spent a big chunk of this video just taking it out of you, but listen, I'm willing to make it up to you. Let me into that cheese cave of yours. I'll put a hurtin' on it. I know this is a stretch, but I'm the best chance you've got. You see any other volunteers? And trust me, I'll be like the cheese apocalypse. Armageddon. Armageddon, yeah. Anyhow, this video has been super fun to make. It's definitely a wild one. It's funny because I think that this whole situation is just a nice little commentary on the U.S. as a whole. We kind of just insert ourselves where we don't belong and make a giant mess of things, but this time, like, it's just cheese, you know? Like, there's no napalm involved, which is nice. So if you like this video, you know, like it, hit that subscribe button, drop a comment. You can see a bunch of videos like these on my channel. I have one about a guy named Potato Creek Johnny. What a wacky character he sounds like. He was. You should watch it. But thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time. In the meantime, it's time for Armageddon. Is that how you pronounce Gouda cheese?
There's a man going around eating cheese, and he decides that he can eat it all with ease. Each flavor and each type now to seize. From the caves of Missouri, where it's found, when the cheese makes him round. To Swiss and to cheddar he'll rise up, and in his hands all the cheese curds he will cup. Will he upon all of this cheese now sup, or disappear beneath Missouri's ground? Will the cheese make him round? Hear the munchin', hear the eatin', 1.4 billion pounds depleting. Multitudes of cheese wheels, 'cause our presidents are dumb. Some are mild and some are biting, some are bad and some inviting. Dairy promotion programs, kingdom come.